we got going on here? All right, we are live in all the places. Hey everybody, I am Carol Williams with Williams Immigration. If you don't already follow me, I'm an immigration attorney. Head office is headquartered out of sunny South Florida, and we work with business owners and entrepreneurs and families that are navigating our U.S. immigration system. So I generally come on live Monday through Friday, depending on what my schedule looks like, around 7-ish, 7:30. And we talk about all things U.S. immigration, and I answer some questions that y'all may have. While I am an immigration attorney, I'm not your specific immigration attorney, so just keep that in mind. And it looks like maybe, I don't know, maybe the government's going to open up. I'm not quite sure. I don't have a crystal ball on that one. It's zero inside knowledge, but that has been sort of the talk. And if that happens, or I should say when that happens, because at some point it has to reopen, when that happens, all the agencies that feed into and work with and touch immigration cases will be processing cases again, and then cases will be hopefully processing a little bit quicker than they are currently. We are still, I was on a call today with some employment folks. We were talking about employment authorization documents, and that we now have a new policy in place where you can file them no more than 6 months before your current EAD or employment authorization document ends. That's not the new part. The new part is that they're no longer going to be auto extended. So for an employment-based green card right now is taking, an employment-based employment authorization document, an EAD, is currently taking 7 months for processing. According to USCIS, we can't file more than 6 months in advance. You do the math, we're looking at a 1 month gap where folks are going to potentially have to come off payroll if CIS doesn't process the EADs quick enough. So that's happening. I had some conversations today. Oh, I should say that EAD rule does not apply to international students that are here in F1 status who are moving from your 1-year OPT to your 2-year STEM OPT. Those folks are exempt from that rule. Their automatic extension, I believe, is 180 days. Had a conversation with some folks today who are with their employer. They have several OPT individuals that are on their team and on their payroll, part of their organization. So we are adding them to our H-1B lottery list for 2026. So if you are an H-1B status, if you are an F1 international student and you are currently working with a company using your OPT or using your STEM OPT, now is the time to ask. Sorry, I'm always fidgeting with something. Now is the time to ask if your employer is going to enter you into the H-1B lottery in March of next year. Do not think that it is too early to ask. Do not think that you are annoying your employer if you ask. And frankly, if your employer acts like they're bothered by this, then that might tell you something about your employment status there, right? But truly, now is the time that you should be asking this question. And I say that now is the time that you should be asking this question of your employers if you are an international student, because this is when all of my corporate clients are doing their budgets for the following year. So you want to make sure that they are going to enter you. You want to get a commitment from them that they're going to enter you into the lottery for next year. So make sure that you step up and you are heard and you are not forgotten about. And, for my friends that work inside companies, they have very, very robust and sophisticated tracking systems of all their people. But it doesn't hurt to ask. It doesn't hurt to start with your manager and float it up the food chain, right? So just really keep that in mind, and don't be afraid to ask them if they are going, ask them especially if, one, if you haven't heard anything from them, right? Two, if you are STEM OPT eligible and you're on your first year of OPT, you want to make sure that they're not going to say, well, we're just going to hold off until, next year. My recommendation always to my clients is that we put your folks into the H-1B lottery as early and as often as possible to give you all the maximum number of chances to get through the lottery. Because fact, there are only 85,000 H-1Bs allowed every year. And so if we need a lottery, not everybody's going to make it. I am all for being optimistic and finding the silver lining and all the things, but you want to make sure that you are being realistic at the same time, that you are, that you have a plan B in place, and that you are doing what you got to do to look out for your future, right, with that company. And again, you just, it doesn't ever hurt to be a little bit of a squeaky wheel. So keep those things in mind, especially if you are an F1 OPT or F1 STEM OPT international student. And if you are a STEM, if you're here on OPT and you're working with your OPT EAD, whether it's regular OPT or STEM OPT, and then you are in the country when that H-1B, if you're selected for the H-1B lottery, if you are in the country when that H-1B is filed, it's filed as a change of status, but it is not subject to the $100,000 filing fee. So that is another conversation that I had today. I had several conversations today with folks that I thought might be helpful for y'all to know. So those are kind of a couple of things that I wanted to bring to your attention. I am happy to answer some questions, provide a little bit of education while answering those questions. Please keep in mind, while I am an attorney, I am not your specific attorney, so I cannot and will not give you legal advice. And honestly, legal advice on social media destroys all sense of confidentiality, which is super important. So feel free to ask me questions. If they're general in nature, I'm happy to answer them. If they're super specific about your case, then I will not answer them, but you are absolutely welcome to schedule a consult and we can see what we can see when we chit chat. Let's see what questions we got. Junior is asking, I have an oath ceremony tomorrow. Do I need to fill the form before the oath or wait the day of the oath? I actually can't quite remember what's on that form. I think it asks about like recent travel, stuff like that, like some real generic information. Listen, if you're nervous about filling it out before, then don't. You can walk into the building and fill it out. I've seen them setting up for the ceremonies before. They always have like, free pens and whatnot. But what I would do, and this is just me, you do not have to do this. You can make a photocopy of that form and bring both with you, just in case you get a little nervous because you're excited and you mess up on it. Then you already have another one with you. That's what I would do. But you're fine. I would just go and fill it out there. And listen, if they're not going to move forward without it being filled out. So that's just, you are at like the home stretch. So I would just get a good night's sleep. Don't let it stress you out and enjoy the moment. Make sure that you enjoy the moment. It's a pretty special moment. So congratulations. But definitely just enjoy the moment. They will give you all of the instructions. There will be someone there who will give you all the instructions for the day, which frankly, there aren't that many, but there will be someone there who will give you all the instructions. Just enjoy the moment. Enjoy the moment, and congratulations. It's very cool. To become a U.S. citizen is not a quick process. So I know this has been a long time coming. So congratulations. Phoenix 69 is asking, is it safe to travel alone as a new conditional lawful permanent resident? I don't see why it wouldn't be safe. I don't really know how you're defining or thinking of safe. But can you travel alone as a conditional permanent resident? Sure. Better question is not should you travel alone, but should you travel? That's a better question. And the answer to that question, I do not know. Travel right now for some folks can be a little bit dicey. So if you have a criminal history anywhere in the world at any time, even if the judge tells you that it's sealed, it's expunged, you don't have to talk about it, any of those things, I would stay away from travel at the moment. Or if you have an outstanding deportation order. Those are kind of the biggies that I am talking with folks about when it comes to travel. But can you travel by yourself with a new conditional permanent resident? Absolutely. But again, traveling right now can be a little bit dicey. So I would look more on, do you have any factors that should prevent you from travel? But technically, yes, you have your green card. It is designed for you to go hang out in the world. Is it okay for me to travel while waiting to hear back from my removal of condition? Short answer, yes. Better question is, should I travel? Same exact answer that I just gave. Criminal history anywhere in the world, outstanding deportation order, absolutely not. Anything else that may specifically have you freaked out, I would ask someone. I would get a consult and I would ask an immigration attorney about that. And if you worked with an immigration attorney, I would reach out to them and ask them. Candace is asking, I had an interview in April. How, I'm guessing long before a decision is made on an I-485. I have no idea. Completely depends on the type of case and the office that has it, the processing times in that office, and what else they have to do on your case in the background. So I talk about this a lot. Just because you've had your interview, and even if the officer says, I'm going to recommend your case for approval, unless you walk out of that interview with an I-551 stamp, chances are very high that work still needs to be done on your case. So it is not a matter of the officer stamps approved on it, closes your file, and then miraculously you're approved and your approval notice is issued. They can recommend your case for approval internally in the office, but if the next person that has to work on your file sees something, for instance, if your background checks weren't in at the time of your interview, that will slow your file down. Let's say your file is 100% ready to go, ready to be approved, right? But if the person who then has to do the final sign off on the approval is out of the office for 2 weeks or a month, your case isn't going anywhere. If somebody in the next chain, like in that workflow, is not in, or several summons are not in, or I don't know, the government's closed, right? Something like that, your case is going to sit there for a little bit. So do I think April to November is kind of a long time? Yes. But the end of a fiscal year is in September, the last day of September. So, I don't know what kind of case it is. So I don't know if they exhausted their visa numbers and maybe they couldn't process you, couldn't approve you, but all sorts of things. But do I think waiting from April to November is a long time post-interview? Yes. In sort of the real world, we all hate to wait and we would like our stuff like yesterday. but maybe not for the particular local office that you are dealing with. So again, it all just kind of depends on the process flow within that office. Junior, you are most welcome. Like I said, enjoy tomorrow. Come back and tell. I think I'll be live tomorrow, but if I'm live tomorrow, come back and tell us what it was like. Come back and just let us know that you got your naturalization certificate. I love to celebrate wins in my lives, even if I have nothing to do with them, even if my firm has zero to do with them. You all know immigration is really hard. Immigration is a long process. It is really hard to get to citizenship. It's a long process, and so I like to celebrate that. Call me crazy. It's zero to do with my firm. Doesn't matter. I love to celebrate it. But truly enjoy, just soak it all in tomorrow. Soak it all in and enjoy it. Let's see, what else do we have? I have a pending U visa case applied in 2018. Any idea how long is the wait? I do not. I have never done a U visa case. I have, colleagues that handle U visas, but I've never done one, so I couldn't. I don't even have an old case to kind of think about in terms of how long it took or how long it's going to take. It's not something. It is not in my wheelhouse, so that I don't know. And y'all, I'm perfectly fine saying when I don't know something. So, be wary of attorneys that say that they know everything, because that's impossible and we don't. We look things up. I'll actually have a bit of research I'm doing later tonight. I have a research book right next to me. So just, it's perfectly fine when a lawyer says, I don't know, I can look it up for you, which is what I said to somebody. It's like, wow. I'm happy to look it up for you, though. I'm happy to figure out the answer. Someone is saying I had to show proof of divorce. Hold on, let me see if I can marry that with. Oh, you had an. Oh, okay. So interview in April, no decision. Hold on, scrolling down. No decision. Had to show proof of divorce. Yeah. So, if they issued an RFE after your April interview, and then you had to send them back, proof of divorce, then April to now does not seem so long to me. So yeah, listen, you send it in a week or two after the interview. Think about the number of people that were sitting in the waiting room with you. Like, that officer in 2 weeks has seen a zillion and one people sent to you. So all of those cases all need to be processed. The immigration process, the internal agency process, is a massive, think of it just as a massive flow chart. If A, then B, if C, then D, but if D happens, but it doesn't happen within 180 days, then we go over here. It's a massive flow chart. It's a massive work product logistics situation. So I understand that, we are impatient. We want things now. We feel like we're at the very end of the process. But just because it takes you 2 weeks to get back to them and you think that's fast, if they were hoping to get it in 2 days, your definition of fast is now their definition of slow, and they are now working on other files, right? So you got to be patient, right? The second there is an RFE, you just have to be patient. And they may actually not even call up your file until when the RFE was originally due. Because then that person, the officer, knows that it should, that they should have your file back by then. So sometimes that may be the reason. But if you send them what they ask for, then you just gotta kind of be patient. And I know that's hard since you're like right there, like right at what seems to be the end of the process. Why is the N400 process taking so long? So long is relative. Everybody wants their stuff yesterday. The N400, which is the citizenship application process, is the highest, most important benefit that USCIS has to give. It is not temporary work authorization. It is not a green card that they can revoke if you do something wrong. It is US citizenship, which is permanent, truly permanent. It is the most important benefit that entire agency provides to stakeholders, to applicants. And so they're going to take their time. I mean, just flat out. Like, that is just the reality of it all. They're going to take their time, and they're not going to move faster just because I would like them to move faster on a citizenship application. So it's just not going to happen. So processing times are a combination of the type of case and the office that has the case, and frankly, the priority of cases inside the agency. Add to that, right now, the government's been shut since the beginning of October. So it is going to take as long as they want it to take, or as long as they feel like it needs to take. Background checks have to come in. And y'all, it's not just US background. It's like a worldwide background check, right? So like all the pieces of the puzzle have to be aligned. Do we always like it? No. Do we always like the processing times? Absolutely not. Am I super impatient? Yep, I am. But I am just, to a certain extent, it is what it is, right? So, and again, long for what you think is long may not be very long for someone on the inside. I had a call today. It's a current client. They're looking to bring someone else on board. They said, or they asked, all my clients ask this: how fast? How fast can I get this person on board? How fast can I get this person essentially butt in seat working? I was like, 12 weeks, right? And maybe it wasn't 12 weeks. I think realistically we were looking at sort of the end of December, right? And for a company, it's like, Carol, that's like a month and a half. Like that's like a long time. And it is a long time, right? For the company that has work piling up on a desk that they want done. But for me in my world, and my clients worked with me for a while, so I was like, do you have any idea how fast that is in my world? When on the family side of that, people that wait like 9 or 10 months for an employment authorization document, 9 or 10 months on a really fast green card case. So, like 8 weeks, I'm like, 8 weeks is like lightning fast in my world, like lightning fast. So again, long is relative, but long for US citizenship, for the most important, highest benefit that USCIS provides, they are absolutely going to take their time. And on top of that, the current White House administration, has made it very clear and has taken actions to vet the backgrounds of applicants more. So as the agency is doing more background checks, more vetting, that we knew this from the beginning. That is going to take more time, because what they're not doing is by and large really increasing quickly the number of officers. So while they were hiring a couple of weeks ago, I think they had a note, like a posting up about being hired. There's a process to being hired. So like those officers aren't going to see a case for a minute. Like they have to be hired. They have to go through an extensive background check for their security clearance. Then as adjudicators in the field, once they're hired, then they have to go to training. That's a while. And then they get to a desk that has a file on it. So it is just as stressful inside the agency as it is for us on the outside of the agency. And while I know that you all do not care about the stress levels of folks that work inside the agency, that all goes into processing times. It looks like Tortiana was asking how I'm doing. I am doing absolutely lovely. Thank you for asking. I hope you are doing well. Average I-130 time, I would say look at the USCIS website and see what their processing times are. I don't have sort of an average I-130 processing time, because processing times depend on the type of case. So the I-130 is used for an immediate relative case, but it is also used for all of the preference categories. So depending on what type of case you are filing, will really depend on the processing time. After they acknowledge the receipt of the requested evidence. So after you submit an RFE, essentially, you submit that response to an RFE. Typically, how long before they come, I'm assuming, back is what you're saying? Again, y'all are going to hate me this evening. I can already see this. Completely depends on the workload on that particular officer's desk and the workload within that office, and what has to be done after the case leaves that officer's desk. There is no set time. And I don't even know what kind of case you're talking about. So if I flip your question into the employment-based categories, which offer premium processing, which for some cases we get a decision or we get something within 15 calendar days. For other types of cases, we get something within 45 calendar days. Typically, once we respond to that RFE, again, on the employment-based side, where an employer has opted for premium processing, which is an expedited processing mechanism, the agency tries to get us a decision, a response from that request for further evidence in the same amount of time, whether it be 15 calendar days or 45 calendar days. There is no such beast on the family side. It just doesn't exist. So it could take them a week, it could take them 2 months. Completely depends on the workload. And again, while you are gathering documentation and writing a response to respond to a request for further evidence, more work is hitting that officer's desk. So just keep that in mind. Discouraged about processing time for 601 waivers. Yeah, processing time for 601 waivers are not quick. I was just chatting about that with some colleagues. They're not quick. However, they're not quick, but they are getting processed. One of the things we were talking about were 601 waiver approvals. So yes, I get that they're taking a while, but they are getting approved. It just depends on, the manpower that they have put towards those applications. And when I say manpower, I mean like trained people. Like you don't want someone that handles like an H-1B employment-based visa processing your 601 waiver. Like those applications have zero to do with one another. So, while some other application types are moving certainly quicker than the 601 waivers, you want folks looking at your 601 waiver application who actually know what a 601 waiver application is. So so there's kind of a lot that really goes into it. what can I do if ICE puts me into a detention center? You can reach out to a lawyer and have them work on your case. You can reach out to a lawyer if that is a concern. You can reach out to a lawyer now before ICE puts you into, before ICE potentially picks you up and puts you into deportation proceedings via a detention center. You can provide names to family members of lawyers who would be able to assist in the, in case you are put into ICE detention. How long does it take to get reappointment for biometrics due to sickness for not being able to attend? I don't know. There's no set time on that. I haven't had a client reschedule a biometrics or an interview in a very long time because I tell them I don't know how long it's going to take for us to get it rescheduled. And when they reschedule it, they're not going to ask you when to reschedule. They're just going to reschedule you. So I really don't know. Like, I really don't know. Could take a couple weeks, could take a couple months. It really depends on the scheduling and the workload at that particular biometric center. So I really don't know. Let's see here. Someone is saying, I just looked on the website and it says I'm on track. Do not call until April 2028. That definitely sounds like a family-based case. Also, perhaps sounds like a preference-based case as opposed to an immediate relative. And it could be out of a very slowly operating office. But yeah, those are some of the things that we're seeing in terms of timing. But yeah, April 28th is certainly disheartening. But that said, right, like depending on the type of case, if it were my client and they told me I couldn't reach out to them until 2028, can't say that I would really follow that. But again, it would really depend on what type of case it was, right? Like, I'm not going to have my client just sort of sit around if I think it makes sense to reach out to them. But there are times when I tell my clients, I'm like, listen, like they're telling us we can't really contact them for another month and a half. You know what? We can wait another month and a half, right? Because then at that point, it gives me a little bit more to argue once I do reach out to them. So some of it is not an exact science. Some of it is just years of practice and just kind of knowing how the agency thinks. Because there's really low-hanging fruit that just sort of irritates folks within the agency. So, I mean, knowing what those things are, I kind of really try not to do them. But then there's other times where I think it is well served to reach out, even though they are saying to us, don't bother us until 2028 on this. It's kind of it's not my crystal ball, but it's because sometimes it's a gut feeling, sometimes it's a strategy move, but that's just years of practice, quite honestly. Let me see now. Yeah, I-130s are taking standalone. I-130s are taking a while now. For marriage to a USC, they're definitely taking a while. They're not particularly quick at the moment. Can a 24-year-old dual citizen get her social security number when she comes to the States with her U.S. passport, as long as she meets the requirements that are set forth on the Social Security website? Got my green card in March of 2023. Would divorce after the 3-year rule if I get one now? I don't actually understand your question. I don't understand your question. Are there times that VAWA applicants' green card interviews are waived? My office generally doesn't do a whole lot of VAWA cases, so I tell all of my clients, be prepared for an interview. We're gonna get ready and file this as if there is an interview. So I tell people to wrap their heads around an interview if going to an interview completely freaks them out for whatever reason. And then if we don't get an interview, great. If we do, you're prepared. Let's see here. Easiest way to get a citizenship as a U.S. Marine Corps veteran. There are special rules for military. So I would have a consult and a sit down with, or a virtual sit down with an immigration attorney who can walk you through what those rules would look like. But if he's been a green card holder since 1979, I mean, he's long been eligible for citizenship. Now, what he may not meet is the physical presence requirements, but if he's no longer active duty and he's in the States, it might not even make a difference that he's a veteran. But I would sit down and have a consult so that somebody can look at those very fine line specific rules. Are applications approved by agents, or is it done via an automated computer process? Applications are processed by human beings. A case was sent to an incorrect office. Happens more often than you would think. Immigration is a huge logistical effort to get things where they need to go. Do mistakes happen? Absolutely. But, right, do mistakes happen for all of us? Absolutely. Is it frustrating? Absolutely. But mistakes happen. Someone is saying American passport, you already have a social. If you have an American passport, you already have a social. That is false. Even if you have an American passport, or if you are a U.S. citizen, you must apply for your first social security number. Well, your first and only social security number. They do not automatically issue social security numbers just because you are born in the States. I'm an OPT now. Can my wife join me for the period of OPT? If your spouse is eligible for dependent status, then there shouldn't be an issue. That is a but there's no prohibition on your spouse getting dependent status if you are an international student. Let's see here. What else do we have? My brother needs a waiver because he missed the deadline for his green card. I don't know what that means. I don't understand your question. See here. Let's see here. Someone's asking where I'm streaming from. My office, the firm is located in Florida, but we work with folks all over the country and all over the world. Sorry, let me scroll back up. Can you self-deport if you were detained? First of all, there's no such thing as self-deportation. That is a media word or media phrase. But if you're detained, I don't know. I don't work with folks that are detained. So unfortunately, I'm not the best person to answer that for you. Can I expedite processing for my sibling who is over 21? I get a lot of questions on here about expediting cases. Expediting cases is, or I should say, USCIS gets a lot of requests to expedite cases on a daily basis. And on a daily basis, they deny a lot of expedite cases. The reason being that they process cases first in, first out. So if they are when they expedite a case, that means that your case is being jumped ahead of sometimes hundreds or thousands of other people who are also patiently, or maybe not so patiently, waiting in line. And so that is something that the agency takes very, very seriously. So is your expedite request going to be approved? I have no idea. No clue. I can tell you though that cases that are asked to be expedited for people who have family members, immediate family members, extended family members overseas that are sick in the hospital and or actively dying, or wedding ceremonies, birthdays, significant birthdays, 50th birthday, 100th birthday, school graduations, all denied. All denied. So asking for expedites, you can certainly ask for them, but CIS is not always going to grant an expedite. It means that they are putting you ahead of hundreds, if not thousands of other people. And they're very, very conscious of that. So, I've had to give my clients bad news, when we've requested expedites. And so never a fun or nice conversation, but I set the expectation from the beginning that if this gets approved, consider it your miracle. let me see here. Marriage to a U.S. citizen. Did biometrics. My I-45 tracker checked the interview, so it's waived. Question mark. I don't understand what you mean by my I-45 tracker checked the interview. Are you saying I don't know what you mean by that? You will know that, well, first of all, this current administration is not about waiving interviews. That would be number one. Number two, you will know if your interview has been waived if and when you receive your green card in the mail. That's when I know that the interview has actually been waived. I think online statuses are nice. I think they're lovely. I'm happy that we have them. They're unofficial. The official notice for anything, whether it be biometrics, receipt, RFE, notice of intent to deny, denial notice, biometric notice, interview notice, like anything where I get a piece of paper in the mail, that's the official notice. Not processing times. When the online status updates first came out, like, gosh, many years ago, sometimes they weren't right? Because they were, there were glitches in the matrix, and that happens when things are new. But there's always a chance that is incorrect. In fact, I sent a client really like super exciting news. I was like, oh, your case has been approved, blah, blah, blah. I saw it online, da, 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 da. I got a notice of intent to deny in the mail. And I was like, no, you can't give me this now. The online system said it was approved. And they were like, oops, so sorry. That online is always unofficial. I learned the hard way that day. Never made that mistake again. Although I don't think it was a mistake on my part. But, I relied on the online system, and that is not the official situation there. That is not the official notification. So I always tell my clients, online is saying it's approved. However, it is fully approved, officially approved when I get something in the mail. So you will know that your interview was waived when they, one, send you something that's in the mail that says your interview was waived, although they don't do that, or two, when you get your green card in the mail. So you can be cautiously optimistic, but still be prepared for an interview. Do I take clients just on the basis of checking status? Yes, I do. We absolutely have done that in the past for folks. And wondering, why does it take so long with African countries on spousal visas? I don't know. I don't know what the processing times are. I don't kind of break them down by country since my clients are all over. I'm trying to think. My last approval for a green card from someone from an African nation was actually really kind of fast. It was about 9 months, which in the immigration world for a green card is really fast. So I don't know, I don't know what the processing times are, sort of like in general across the board, broken out by country or by region of the world. So that I just don't know. I don't really have data on that for you. Is it normal to wait for a decision after passing the naturalization exam in April 2025? Yes, it is normal to wait. Things have to be done on the back end of any in-person interaction with the agency, whether it be biometrics, whether it be an interview. That wait time will also depend on the local office that you interviewed in and their particular workload. Especially for citizenship, it will also depend on if you requested to have your name changed. Name changes can only be done in court. They cannot be done by the Immigration Service. So the Immigration Service can help send all that information over to court, but court has at least, I know in Atlanta, the court has a minimum number that they want to see that sort of makes it worth their while to have a judge just do like a mass name change in conjunction with a naturalization ceremony. So if you opt to change your name, which is totally fine, just know that you've got to wait until a certain number of other applicants who opt to change their name and are approved, all come together. That could take months for that to happen, right? It's kind of why I always tell my client, don't change your name via your citizenship application. Do that afterward. Sometimes it's much quicker if you do it afterward. But yeah, so, and also, you could have passed the civics and the English, but if your background check isn't fully done and isn't fully in, your case isn't going anywhere. It'll sit there until those background checks are in. Let's see here. What other questions do we have? Someone is asking if I've worked with T visas. That answer is no. Let's see here. I don't see. Let's see. I don't see any more questions. Yeah, I don't see any more questions. So, which is perfect timing, because I do actually have to do some research. I have a research book opened right next to me. So this has been fun, guys. This has been a ton of fun. I will be back again tomorrow, I believe. We'll see. And yeah, if you guys want to work with us, get ready for a little humor, a little bit of sarcasm. Immigration is far too long to be totally deadpan and serious for the whole process, especially when the process can take several years. So my office, we laugh, we have fun. I'm sarcastic. My team generally is not so sarcastic, but they put up with me. But yeah, I'm Carol Williams with Williams Immigration. I work with companies, I work with employers, I work with entrepreneurs, I work with families, folks that are just trying to navigate this very complex, complicated immigration system, and they want someone to kind of guide them through and keep track of all the different changes and whatnot. That is what we do for folks that we work with, and we try to have fun doing it. So have a wonderful evening, you guys. This has been great as always. Yeah, I will see you tomorrow. Bye.